So as you guys know, this is the most important part of your video. If your thumbnail isn't good, it will not perform well and your videos most likely won't get any views. But I'm gonna basically show you guys, number one, how to create thumbnails. And the next thing I'm gonna show you guys is basically the thumbnails do's and don'ts. You guys have to understand there's a lot of people that have really bad like social media habits, When it comes to your social media accounts, you always want to make sure they are in tip-top shape, especially if you're going for growth or just traffic in general and you want to monetize it. You just want to make sure everything is always to a T. So number one, I'm going to show you guys a demonstration on Photopea. I explained this in a previous lecture. Essentially, this is literally Photoshop, but all you have to do is Google it and you're able to do this. So once you guys get here, all you have to do is click new project. You can also click open from computer if you already have a similar thumbnail or a picture that you're gonna put on a thumbnail, or if you have Photoshop templates, maybe you have something on a drive where your Photoshop account or your Photoshop software is on a different computer, you guys can just go ahead and get the template from that and then upload it here. But let's go ahead and just go to new project. From here, it's for a YouTube thumbnail, so we're gonna select the YouTube cover. Before you do that, every setting is already here. Just go ahead and click this. And then I always do transparent background. You can do any other background if you like, but I just like doing transparent background. And then from there, all you guys have to do is simply click create. Now, after you guys have created, now you have your official thumbnail template, okay? Now, there's only a few things you're gonna use if you're making your own thumbnails, okay? I'm not the biggest and greatest graphic designer artist. That's what I go and hire people for. You can find them on Fiverr, Upwork, even Twitter, right? As I told you guys. But just from a general standpoint, let's say you guys are making a thumbnail for a rain video or an ocean sounds video or just something simple like that. All you guys have to know and understand is your layers. Basically, every time you drag and drop a photo in this box, it's gonna show up as a brand new layer, okay? And so here, I'll go over to pexels.com and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, right? So let's just say we go ahead and get a luxury car vehicle thumbnail. We copy this. This is simply all you have to do. I know I'm moving kind of fast. All you do is find your image, copy it, go back over here, and then you're simply gonna click copy paste, right? Then all you have to do, if you see the image is not filling the entire thing, click on transform controls. It's gonna show you guys the box. And I would normally go for something that actually fits this size because it looks like if I just stretch it this way, it's not gonna look right. So you guys can see it's already distorted and it looks really bad. So if you guys ever mess up, all you simply have to do is click edit and click undo. It'll take you back to your normal form, but all I do is I just grab this corner and I pull it down until that side reaches this side. It still kind of looks a little deformed, but it doesn't look too bad. Normally it will show up pixelated like this, so all you have to do is just click on the mouse, and then from there it will go back to its normal pixels. So as you guys can see here, we can take off transform controls and we have a few settings we can do here, okay? So number one on YouTube, you always wanna make sure that your thumbnail is eye-catchy. How do we do that? We go into image. After we go into image, we go into adjust. Now I would definitely adjust the brightness on this. I'm just gonna type in, I normally start with 20 and then I go up or down from there and then I just click off so it shows me. And as you guys can see, it got brighter. I honestly think this can go a little bit brighter, so I'm gonna just go for 30. Then I'm gonna click off again and it just looks really good. Or actually it just went back to 20, what's going on? Okay, so I'm gonna click that and it went brighter. Then from there, we're gonna go to contrast and we're gonna do 50% of that, or you can do 50% over. So I'm gonna start with 15, I'm gonna click off, and I like how that looks. So I think I'm gonna stay there, and then I'm gonna click OK. So now that your thumbnail looks bright, it looks good. If you do wanna make it a little more eye-catchy, what you can do is you can go over to hue and saturation, and then from here, go over to saturation. And like I said, start with 25, click, and you guys can see the yellow looks good, the red looks good, it's very poppy. If you guys wanna get extra, you can go up to 40, but I wouldn't go I honestly wouldn't go over 35. Actually, I wouldn't even go over 30, to be real. Yeah, that looks good. I don't want it to look super cartoony, so I won't go over that, but this is just another way to make your image look a little more appealing, okay? So from here, this is where basically you can get very creative, okay? There's so many different things you can do here, okay? If you want to cut this image out, say we just wanted to cut out a small car in this actual thumbnail, what you can do is you can go over to the pen tool, right? Or you can even just crop it before you even drag and drop the image, but you can basically go into the pen tool. Me personally, I only know how to use the pen tool on Photoshop. I don't use it here, but I'm sure there's plenty of tutorials out there for you guys to learn how to use it. But essentially, I would just grab this car and then I would move it somewhere, or I would do something with it where I would make it look bigger or whatever, right? Now, after you guys have figured that out, you guys can then add text to the screen if you would like to. You can also, like I said, crop it if you would like to. There's so many settings here. If you want to erase something, you can go ahead and erase the image as much as you want, just like that. You guys can use the paint tool on this if you would like. There's so many different things you guys can do. What I would normally do if I was using this as a thumbnail, I would probably put some type of writing on it, but I'm gonna go ahead and go into the version of this lecture where I talk about the do's and don'ts of thumbnails, so you guys can be clear on what not to do when you're making a thumbnail, okay? But this is just the basic like knowledge on how to create a thumbnail. There's so many different ways you can do it. Normally, I'd look at my competitors and I just see what they're doing on their thumbnails, and then I just go ahead and figure out a way to make it look similar to theirs, okay? And this is if I'm not getting a thumbnail artist, right? This is just me doing it on my own. But now, as you guys can see, we have a brand new thumbnail, and I'm gonna show you guys two really good thumbnails after I show you guys what not to do with this thumbnail, okay? So most amateurs, what they do is they'd like put a text bar here, right? And let's make it bigger. And let's just put cool crossover moves, right? Or something of that sort, right? And so what most amateurs would do, it's gonna be funny, but this is what they do. This is what I see all the time. They'll click on this, right? And this is how you edit the text, right? If you ever needed to edit some text, you can go into the layer style. Layer style basically allows you to do pretty much everything, but the only thing you may play with, especially if you're not hiring anybody, you'll probably play with the stroke, the outer shadow or the drop shadow, and then you may mess around with gradient, not too much. I really say refrain from actually using like any of these. If you are gonna get into this, I would just suggest to go through a professional, or you can even buy a thumbnail pack. You can find them online. They have a ton of them where they already have these things created for you. All you have to do is drag and drop and then create your own text and you guys are good to go. But this is what they do, okay? This is what you're not supposed to do. So color overlay, they'd make this like a crazy yellow, and then the stroke would be black like this. There wouldn't even be any drop shadow, right? They just leave it like this, right? And then the text would be very big, okay? So this is like what you don't want to do, okay? You don't want your thumbnails to look like this, okay? It just looks very unpresentable. Nobody's gonna click on this. Like, they don't even know what they're looking at. If this pops up in the search engine, it's just not gonna do well, right? So I'm gonna show you guys, what you can do to make thumbnails very appealing, okay? So scratch everything we just talked about, okay? The number one biggest no-no is just not putting words on the thumbnail, okay? You can put words on a thumbnail, but it has to make sense, and I'm gonna show you a way of doing that, okay? So just remember, always, always, always enhance the image. Always make sure the image is bright and it catches people's eye, okay? Because that's the point of YouTube, right? Getting people's attention, getting people to click on your videos. So here's a great example of a thumbnail from one of my clients. They have a basketball or NBA channel, and this is an amazing example of number one, catching the audience's attention, adding words on the thumbnail where you can clearly see it, and just putting things in the thumbnail that just makes you want to click on the video. So the first thing you can point out is with my eyes closed. That's probably the first thing somebody's gonna see, and then they're gonna see an arrow. These types of thumbnails are made for people to literally just see them and click them immediately because it just catches their attention. And as you guys can see, it's LeBron James at the free throw line, but when it shows him about to shoot, they put an arrow going to the floor, which makes everybody very interested and they want to see what's going on. You can also see my client added a blur around the crowd, so you can only focus on LeBron James shooting a free throw, okay? So this is the perfect example of adding arrows and adding words. If you're ever gonna add anything on an image, Simply just go ahead and do something simple like this. You don't need too much. You can literally add one cool arrow and just add some text. And that's pretty much most thumbnails on YouTube. Now I'm gonna show you guys another really cool example, and this is gonna be utilizing circles. So a great thumbnail has focus points. This right here, you can see is Swaggy P. It looks like he shot a basketball backwards, and it looks like it's gonna be an embarrassing moment because it actually didn't go into the hoop. It went all the way onto the backboard. But as you guys can see, it's just another very great way of catching the audience's attention in the NBA niche. They circled the ball, and although they didn't really zoom into his face, it looks really good. Now, a lot of you guys are probably saying, wow, this actually looks like a pretty bad thumbnail because of quality. Well, some of these thumbnails, because this is a pretty old picture, the quality is not that great, but you have to look at it from a perspective of it showing up on somebody's suggested feed, the search engine, or even just the recommendations. So when it shows up on any of those, it's gonna look like this because it's gonna be that small, and people are gonna see this and they're automatically gonna click on it. So when you guys are making your thumbnails, don't worry too much about the quality of the picture. I mean, of course, if your subscribers are gonna be the main people watching it, you wanna make sure that it actually has a better quality. But as you guys can see, from far away, it doesn't look too bad. So those are two really great examples of making very high, like eye-catching, attractive thumbnails. You guys can do this in any niche. You can always add arrows, circles, or even just writing in text. Even if you're in a different niche where it doesn't require you to actually do this, you just wanna make sure the quality is there. For example, if we go back over to our original thumbnail, let's just say we're in a niche where we don't have to put anything on the thumbnail, right? So let's just take the rain niche, for example. What I would do is I would go onto a free site like Pexels or any stock footage site, and I just go through the images and I'd find the best picture that has the best quality so that I can use it as my thumbnail. Now, a lot of these are really great, but one of my favorites is actually this one. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click this, simply just copy it again, bring it back over to our original thumbnail, and then we're gonna go ahead, grab the key tool, click on the picture, and then copy and paste it. We just use the quick keys, and I believe this isn't big enough. So what we can do again is just go to the controls right here, transform it, bring it down over here. And then from there, you guys can see it's a little pixelated. We're just gonna click it, go like that. And you guys can see it just looks really, really good. And if this showed up on somebody's feed that wants to watch rain videos, it's very appealing. As I said, you guys can always make it look even better. You can brighten it up. It doesn't look like it needs to be too bright. So right here, I would put like 15. You guys can see it's bright. Then I'll put the contrast at like 20, right? Go 5 over. And you guys can see it brought that dark back. Then from there, I'd go back over to image. You can even saturate this a little bit to make the color just pop a little more. I will make it 20. And it's beautiful. It looks like a really good thumbnail. It looks like it's a higher quality thumbnail. And you know, it's just not you copying an image and just putting it on your video. You actually added some value to it and you made it look a lot better. So this is how you guys can make high quality thumbnails, and this is some examples of what you shouldn't be doing on thumbnails and what you should be doing. Keep in mind, you can add words to thumbnails. Don't think it's not okay to do so. Just make sure that it's legible. People can read it when it's in suggested, they can read it when it's in the search engine, and also they can read it when it's on recommendations, and it's just neat and it makes sense. But there's so many other ways you can create thumbnails. It's honestly best to start off by doing it yourself just so you can learn it. But then again, if you do want to find a professional, that's okay as well.